Welcome to the Stoic Golden Tribe, where enduring wisdom meets the strength of presence, and where we uncover the truths modern society refuses to teach men. There's something no one told you, not your teachers, not your parents, not even your past relationships. It's not love you crave, it's validation, approval, the feeling that someone finally picked you. This is not judgment, it's a truth many men live with but never speak aloud. We were raised in a world that conditioned us to chase worth in the form of affection, to confuse being chosen with being valuable. But when your desire for connection is rooted in a deep wound of inadequacy, love becomes a battlefield, not a bond. This video is for the man who's tired of pretending, tired of performing, tired of thinking that if he just fixes himself enough, she'll stay. Or worse, come back. Through 4 powerful chapters, we're going to break the cycle. We'll look at history, philosophy, and real emotional dynamics to help you understand why you chase what you do and how to stop. You'll learn how to anchor your worth from within, how to develop emotional mastery, and how to build relationships not from the ache to be seen, but from the strength of truly seeing yourself. Because until you stop trying to be picked, you'll never pick yourself. Before we begin, do 3 things for your future self. Like this video so it reaches more men who need it. Subscribe to the Stoic Golden Tribe, where the modern man finds ancient strength. Comment along the way to sharpen your understanding and connect with brothers on the same path. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The wound beneath the want. Why you crave to be picked. It starts earlier than you think. Long before your first heartbreak. Before your first love. Before the first time you said, "I love you," and didn't hear it back. It begins in childhood, in the subtle, almost invisible places where attention was given or withheld, in the moments when love felt conditional, when your tears were met with silence, when your achievements earned applause, but your struggles earned indifference. That's where the desire to be picked is born. Most men don't chase love, they chase recognition. They chase the soothing balm of finally being enough. We confuse someone choosing us with our pain being healed. But that's not love. That's self-abandonment dressed in affection. Let's take a look back. In Greek mythology, Achilles was the greatest warrior of his time, but beneath his rage and strength was a deep need for validation. He withdrew from battle not just out of pride, but because he felt unseen, unappreciated. Even the fiercest men can fall victim to the ache of feeling disregarded. And when he did re-enter the war, it was not for the sake of honor, it was for revenge, grief, and the wound of losing someone who once made him feel worthy. Patroclus. This mirrors modern men. We armor ourselves with success, strength, and swagger. But beneath it all is a longing to be recognized, not just for what we do, but for who we are. Here's the uncomfortable truth. When your identity is built on being chosen, you give away your power. You're no longer living, you're auditioning. You say yes when you want to say no. You stay quiet when your soul wants to speak. You become a version of yourself designed to please, not to be free. And the worst part? Even if someone chooses you, it never feels like enough. Because they're not loving you. They're loving the mask you made for them. In relationships, this dynamic plays out like a tragic dance. You meet someone who shows interest, and suddenly they become your mirror. Their approval defines your mood. Their withdrawal triggers your anxiety. You start walking on eggshells, afraid to lose the reflection of yourself you see in their eyes. This isn't intimacy. It's dependency. It's needing someone to complete a puzzle you haven't even finished building on your own. Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic emperor of Rome, wrote, "Never esteem anything as of advantage to you that will make you break your word or lose your self-respect." In other words, do not sacrifice your core for the illusion of connection. He ruled the greatest empire in the world, but never lost sight of the kingdom within, his own mind, values, and integrity. You must do the same. When you seek to be picked, you abandon your throne and beg for scraps from someone else's table. You don't need to be picked. you need to pick yourself. That means doing the hard work. Healing the wounds of childhood where love felt earned. Releasing the shame that tells you you're not enough unless someone else says so. Practicing solitude not as punishment, but as power. The kind that builds unshakable confidence. Practical steps for emotional mastery. 1. Audit your attachments. Write down who you're still trying to impress or win over, even subconsciously. This clarity is the first act of liberation. 2. Speak your needs. Honestly, if you can't express what you want without fear, you're still in performance mode. Learn to speak without apology. 3. Practice. Worthiness alone. Go places alone. Sit in silence. Travel without needing someone to validate the experience. Self-worth is forged in solitude. The world will always tell you to chase love, attention, and admiration. But none of that matters if you don't admire yourself. And here's the paradox. The moment you no longer need to be picked is the moment you become irresistible, because now you're whole, rooted, radiating presence, not seeking approval. Comment below. I am not here to be chosen. I choose myself. Chapter 2. The illusion of modern love. How culture trains men to perform, not connect. Step into any modern relationship and you'll find a stage, not a sanctuary. Today, love has become a performance, a curated version of affection, a highlight reel of dopamine and desire. It's no longer about mutual depth. It's about mutual validation. And men, we've been conditioned to be the performers, charming, successful, emotionally available. But not too much, confident but not intimidating, sensitive but only when it benefits her. We are not taught how to feel, we are taught how to appeal. In the royal courts of 17th century Europe, courtiers were trained to entertain, flatter, and maneuver their way into favor with the queen. These men lived not by truth, but by appearance, carefully measured, always watched. Fast forward 400 years. The stage has changed, but the role remains. Men still learn to modify themselves for approval. Swipe culture and social media have turned us into curated brands. We don't date to know someone. We date to be liked, to be picked. And every time we tailor ourselves to win affection, we lose a part of who we are. The cultural lie. If she picks me, I must be enough. This is the unspoken mantra. We walk into relationships carrying the silent hope that someone else will make us feel whole. That love will be the medicine. That if we can just do enough, be enough, offer enough, we'll finally feel seen. But here's the brutal truth. Being chosen by someone else will never compensate for the parts of you you've abandoned just to be picked. Men lose themselves in the illusion of romantic rescue, but there is no rescue, only reclamation. When you perform in a relationship, you may gain approval, but you forfeit authenticity. And without authenticity, there is no intimacy, only transaction. You say what you think she wants to hear. You suppress what you truly feel. You become agreeable, compliant, digestible, but inside you're dying, you're shrinking, you're becoming a silhouette of yourself. Here's the cost. You might get the girl, but lose the man. We've all seen him. Maybe you've been him. He becomes whoever she wants him to be. He changes his opinions, hobbies, even friendships to align with hers. He thinks this will make her stay, but in reality, she leaves, not because he wasn't enough, but because he was never real. Women don't want actors, they want anchors. If you want to be respected, admired, and loved, you must stop adapting and start embodying. In feudal Japan, the samurai lived by the code of Bushido, the way of the warrior. This wasn't about swordplay, it was about honor. About standing firmly in who you are, even when it costs you comfort. A samurai didn't bend his code to win favor, he lived it and earned respect through self-mastery. That is the energy modern men must reclaim. Practical advice for modern men. 1. Stop asking, what do women want? Start asking, who am I and what do I value? A man who knows his values becomes a magnet, not because he conforms, but because he leads. 2. Refuse to entertain relationships that require self-betrayal. If you can't say what you believe, feel what you feel, or live how you want, you are not in a relationship. You're in a performance. 3. Develop emotional precision. Start journaling. Meditate. Go to therapy if needed. Emotional strength doesn't come from suppression. It comes from clarity. Know what you feel and why. 4. Choose power over pleasing. Understand, when you stop needing to be picked, you begin to pick partners who see you, not who you pretend to be. Men have been trained to chase women, but the deeper truth is this: you've been trained to chase your own worth through them. But worth isn't earned through approval. It's forged through integrity. You're not here to fit into someone's fantasy. You're here to stand in your reality. And when you do, love becomes a connection, not a contract. Comment below. I don't perform for love, I live with honor. Chapter 3. The power of emotional sovereignty, from chasing love to commanding respect. There is a moment in every man's life when he realizes the cost of self-abandonment. Not in loud, dramatic ways, but in quiet, soul-crushing realizations. You're sitting beside someone you thought you loved, and you feel more alone than you did in solitude. You've given, sacrificed, adjusted, and still something's missing. That something is you, the version of yourself that stood tall before the compromise, the voice that once said no before fear made it whisper yes, the soul that once felt alive without the need to be chosen. What's missing isn't their affection, it's your sovereignty. The man who masters his inner world masters his life. Emotional sovereignty means you no longer let the outside world dictate your inner worth. You don't fall apart when someone leaves. You don't overextend just to be liked. You don't need to be understood to stand strong. It's not about detachment, it's about discipline. You feel deeply, but you're not controlled by those feelings. You care, but you never beg. You love, but you never lose yourself. The ancient Stoics had a word for this: autarkia, self-sufficiency. To them, freedom was not found in luxury or status, but in mastering one's own desires, impulses, and reactions. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Most modern men live the opposite. We've been taught that our power lies in how much we can get. Get her attention, get that validation, get that perfect relationship. But the Stoic man knows power lies in how much we can control within. That is emotional sovereignty. That is masculinity in its purest form. Let's be honest, so many men are one text message away from an identity crisis, one cold shoulder away from collapsing inside, one rejection away from questioning their entire value. This is not love, this is emotional slavery. If your emotional stability depends on another person's response, you are not in control of your life. You've handed your throne to someone else and asked them to rule over your peace. Take it back. How to cultivate. Unshakable. Inner strength 1. Meditate daily. Train your presence. Meditation isn't just a spiritual habit. It's mental armor. You learn to observe your thoughts instead of being owned by them. You become a man who responds, not a boy who reacts. 2. Face rejection. Without collapsing, rejection isn't a reflection of your worth. It's a redirection of your path. Journal after rejection. Ask, what was I really trying to feel from this person? That awareness is the beginning of freedom 3. Have standards, even when you're alone. A man without standards is a man for sale. Would you still walk away if you were lonely? Would you still say no if you had no other options? If the answer is yes, that is strength. That is emotional manhood. 4. Know the difference between love and need. Need is rooted in lack. Love is rooted in choice. When you need someone to complete you, you stop being a partner and start being a project. Masculine principle. From boy energy to king energy. The boy wants to be picked. He waits, hopes, pleads. He's terrified of rejection because his identity isn't solid. But the king doesn't chase. He chooses, he doesn't beg, he blesses, he doesn't react. He rules. Women feel this. The world feels this. And not because you're arrogant, cold, or indifferent, but because you're anchored. A client once told me about his ex who cheated. He didn't scream. He didn't spiral. He calmly packed his things, said nothing, and left. 2 years later, she wrote him a long message, not trying to rekindle, but to say one thing: "I've never respected anyone more." That's the man you want to become. Not the man who gets revenge. Not the man who cries himself to sleep every night begging for closure. But the man who is so rooted in himself, he walks away without needing to be right, because he knows who he is. Love is not the prize. You are the prize. And the man who recognizes this stops trying to prove his worth and starts living it. In this world of noise, confusion, and emotional chaos, be the man who is still, who is grounded, who rules not with ego, but with self-respect. Comment below. I am emotionally sovereign. I don't chase, I lead. Chapter 4. From being picked to living chosen. The rise of the masculine standard. You've been told a lie your entire life, that if you become good enough, soft enough, pleasing enough, you'll finally be chosen. That love is something to win. That relationships are a reward for your compliance. That if you just wait patiently, perform well, and don't cause trouble, someone will see your worth. But that's not love. That's dependence, wrapped in delusion. The truth? You don't need to be picked. You need to wake up. Because the modern man is asleep. To his value, to his strength, to his power. He wanders through life hoping for permission to be great. To feel wanted, to feel needed, to feel seen. But your greatness was never meant to be granted. It was meant to be claimed. In the 1800s, the Zulu nation rose under the leadership of Shaka Zulu, a man of unmatched vision and intensity. Shaka redefined warfare not by size, but by discipline. He trained his men not just in combat, but in mental dominance. His warriors didn't wait to be chosen, they became the storm. They didn't wait for validation, they embodied it. In the same way, your life must become a battlefield of reclaiming, not through aggression, but through alignment. The man who lives for approval always ends up betrayed, not by others, but by himself. So ask yourself, are you living to impress or to express? Are you trying to win her heart or build your own kingdom? Are you waiting to be picked, or have you already chosen who you are? Women do not respect a man who needs them to feel whole. They respect a man who is already whole and offers his love from overflow, not lack. This is the shift from needy to noble, from boy to man, from follower to leader. The difference between standards and walls. Some men, after being hurt, go numb. They build walls. They say, "I'll never love again. I'll never open up." But numbness is not strength. It's fear pretending to be power. True masculine power is not about walls. It's about standards. You don't close your heart. You just raise the bar. You stop dating women who confuse chaos with passion. You stop tolerating emotional manipulation disguised as just being honest. You stop lowering your values just to feel wanted, because now you want yourself more than you want to be accepted. Modern man's code 1. Your identity is internal. What you believe about yourself should not fluctuate based on someone else's mood. Your sense of worth is an anchor, not a feather in the wind. 2. Your love is a gift, not a gamble. Stop offering your heart to people hoping they'll fix you. You're not a project. You're a king. Your love is sacred. Only give it where it will be honored. 3. Your time is currency. Start treating your time like gold. Stop spending it on people who only like the version of you that performs. Invest it in building your mind, body, mission. 4. Your standards are sacred. A man's standards define him more than his talents. Raise them until they scare you, then become the man who naturally meets them. The rise of the Stoic king. The ancient Stoics did not chase approval, they chased virtue. They lived by character, not convenience, by truth, not trend. They were unshakable, not because life didn't test them, but because their response was rooted in timeless principles. And that's the energy we reclaim today, because modern society will not hand you your power. It will seduce you into softening, into proving, into pleading. But your role is not to submit to that system, it's to transcend it, to rise, to lead, to become the standard. You don't want love, you want to be real. And real love doesn't come when you beg to be picked. It comes when you become the man who no longer needs to be. Let this be the death of the boy who waited and the rebirth of the man who chooses himself daily. You don't chase love anymore, you attract it by becoming a man who lives with vision, with discipline, with unshakable emotional power. So live chosen every single day. Comment below. I lead with purpose. I attract, not chase.